soldier's child. As you know, some of us went shopping Friday, and some were to the wrapping and the fundraiser on Saturday. I've come to fall in love with this organization. I never told you that, Daryl. Reading there's brochures as you leave this morning, reading the brochures, reading his book, just getting to know Daryl a little bit. I've come in love with this and what you're doing. These kids that Daryl's having are just like all our kids that we minister to, the kids here. But there's one thing, they've lost a parent in the service of our nation. And there's needs in all kids' lives, I believe, and I think you all know that kids are very important to me. But these kids, too, are important. And Daryl has seen, I call it a ministry, Daryl. I know he's seen the need for these kids, and he reaches out to these kids. So this morning, what we like to do, we like to show you a video that Daryl made on ESPN, correct? And then he's going to come. He's going to talk about Soldier's Child with us this morning. So let's show that video.
Specialist Ryan Travis Baker.
Specialist Anthony Vargas.
Billie Jean Grinder. She was my stepmom.
My fallen hero is Major Matthew Wade Worrell. He was a pilot. He was awesome.
We don't really know what happened.
He died of an IED explosion.
It was a helicopter crash.
He suicided.
I just kept thinking she was gonna come home, and she never did. I was 2 years old.
It was a month before I turned 4.
I was 5 at the time.
I was 9.
These kids are not on our radar. And from my standpoint, they should be #1 on our list of giving, then give to everybody else.
32 kids sharing a single tragic common thread, gathered together for a weekend in the Tennessee wilderness. They are all children of fallen soldiers, surrounded by mentors, many of whom served in the military or have been through the program themselves. Daryl Mackett, a Navy veteran and founder of A Soldier's Child, creates a unique atmosphere to help them cope.
You think about the men and women that sign that contract. They're willing to defend your freedoms, even if they die doing so, and then in turn, their children suffer for it.
Just giving them the outlet to just come out, get dirty, run through the woods, fish, hunt, do all of those things that I would not necessarily be able to do with them.
I like it here, and it is different here because everyone who's around you understands your pain and what you're going through, while people at, like, you'd say your school wouldn't fully understand.
I've heard you all tell me what's so important about this. What makes it special? This is a safe place. This is where you could come, just be free, be yourself.
It makes you feel more comfortable with the whole situation, and you get to express your feelings.
Kids feel inadequate. They don't feel like they're normal. And this is a place that you get to tell them that this is not something that you had control over. People love you here. People want to support you here. It's just allowing them to know that they're not forgotten.
I had never hunted before. I had never fished. I could never teach them those things. And I know that those are experiences that they would definitely have had with their father.
So what is this called?
So this is a largemouth bass right here.
You go just like a pair of pants, you'll put your legs through those loops.
We want to foster this one-on-one experience with, peer-to-peer, encouragement, love, honor, hope. We can do it together. Let's push through.
Ready? No.
Campers learn to face their fears and, by relying on an enthusiastic support system, attempt to overcome them.
Don't worry about how far you're going, just one step. You got it.
Start.
This is scary. Star was really scared of climbing up it, so I looked at her and I was like, do you want to climb up together? And she was like, yes, so we both climbed up together.
Almost up to the platform.
We got to the midway point and freaked out. We said that we were both gonna get to the platform. When we got there, we looked up and we're like, we're almost there, and we motivated each other to get to the top.
There we go!
Did you think
you could do that seriously when you got here?
No.
And what's the lesson to be learned there with all that support?
It's like trust that like people are there for you and you're not alone.
You can reach great heights, you know, with that support system that we're trying to foster here.
A Soldier's Child holds multiple events each year. Jake and Nate met 2 years ago at a camp and bonded immediately. On Saturday morning, Nate was nervous when he sighted his first big buck.
Everyone was like, oh, it's an 8-pointer. We need to get this. This is really important. And then once I saw him, I knew I was perfectly fine, and everything went good from there.
And who was the king hunter out there?
It was Nate. I'm gonna hear it for the next 3 weeks until unless I get a good one myself. So I'm gonna try and even it out.
Brent, count. 10. 10 more.
That was awesome. Oh my God, dude, my heart was pounding. Gee, that's awesome.
I told you I'd show up.
Yeah, that you couldn't wait to
I went to Nate and I was like, dude, I'm sorry for one-upping you.
Yeah.
So wait, how big was your buck?
It was 10-pointer, about 200 pounds.
200 pounds.
After 2 days of shared stories, emotions, and activities, Macklin leaves the campers with a reminder of the power of hope.
We believe that the best thing that we can do with you guys when it comes to dealing with your grief is bringing you together and giving you a platform where you can tell your stories to one another, and then you become stronger because of each other. A Soldier's Child is about love, honor, and hope. When you hope for something, you truly believe. You believe it to happen, and you actually are active to do things to bring hope about. Think about what you're declaring right now as you let your hope boats float.
They leave with a good cry. It's a healing cry.
Isn't that great? Isn't that great? This is what our part's going to be in this. Next summer, next August, we're going to partner with Soldier's Child in a camp for kids. Something like that. And this afternoon, Larry and I have been to a camp, and we researched, looked at the camp, and this afternoon, a couple of us are going to go over, and Daryl's going to see it for the first time. It's really managed by the general. They call him the general, retired Army general, not too far from here. We're going to go look at it. But what we're going to do, we're going to partner with Soldier's Child to provide a camp for these kids. And so I'm excited about this. I know some other people are excited about this. So this is what I'd like to do. We're going to have Daryl come and speak. Like I said, Daryl's the founder of Soldier's Child. Then if God lays upon your heart to give something, we're going to give you an opportunity to give something this morning. We're going to take a special offering up this morning. If you would like to, you don't have to, but if God lays upon your heart. But we're going to partner with Daryl. Daryl, we want you to come. And don't get this guy excited. Okay, I was telling Larry and them back there. Daryl said, "What time's church start?" And I said, 10:30. He said, "What time is it over?" 11:30. He looked at me and said, "What?" You know. So Daryl, it's a privilege to have you here this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? Excellent. So I don't have, as you can tell, I don't have any notes or anything to go by, and that could be a risk for you. So I was born and raised in New York, and I definitely have the gift of the gab. I have a little OCD issue, so everything looks good in here, so we're good to go. So how did it all start? So this photo, as you see, that's Christian Golzinski, and he was 8 years old when his father, Marine Staff Sergeant Marcus Golzinski, was killed in by sniper fire in Iraq. So it was March 27, 2007. And it was almost to the day that Mark was to return home for his second tour. And in fact, I had come home from work, and I was in my house, and I looked across the street, and I saw news trucks. And I did. I thought, oh, wow, Mark's home. And then quickly I realized what had happened when I saw some folks hugging and crying. And it was a long road for my neighbors, Henry and Faye Golzinski. And on one particular night, it was about 3 months after Mark had been killed, I finished up my dishes. I looked out the window and I saw Henry in his garage. And I had done this a few times. I had spent time with Henry, just praying with him, learning more about Mark. I never knew Mark, Christian's dad. And so this particular night, I walked across the street. I walked into his garage, and he put his hand up to stop me. And he said in anger, "Did it really freaking matter? And does anybody give a damn?" And then he turned around and walked into his house and left me standing in his garage. You see, I served in the Navy. I consider myself a patriot. I love the men and women that put on the uniform. But in that 45-minute walk, and I lived across the street, 45-minute walk to get home, I realized two things. One was that I never thought about these kids, these families left behind, those that signed that contract, as I said in the video. You know, we have our families. You know, some of you have your grandchildren here, some have your children, and, you know, we live relatively safe and secure in our country. It's because of the 1%, and that's the truth. 1% of our population defends the 99. Now, have you heard that before? Have you heard about the 1 and the 99? Haven't we? Yeah. So it was, I'm feeling it right now. It was, so I started this in 2008, and it was about 2012. I was doing a service just like this, and someone came up to me before and quoted that scripture verse to me, where God leaves the 99 to go after the 1. And I've been saying this to the kids for the last 5 years or more, that you're the one, that God is coming after you through a Soldier's Child Foundation, that God's heart is for you. We know that it's true. It's the Christian mandate. Care for the widows and orphans in their distress, is it not? Now we get to do it in a patriotic way. See, here's the deal. I believe in missions. I do. When I got saved in 1991, I prayed for 3 things. I prayed that I would have a godly wife and family, and I do. I prayed that my ministry or my life would be around kids, and it is. And then I prayed to be a missionary, that I wanted a mission. And I had always thought that it would be like, you know, to another country. And in fact, my wife's been to Africa twice. We've been to Honduras and Nicaragua and Mexico, leading missions trips. And I never thought that it would be, this is what the plan was, that the mission was right here in our own backyard, caring for widows and orphans who were left behind because of military death. So after Henry had said that to me, this was my second fear. And many of you may have thought this as well. My second fear, or second thought, was death. That I would die before my children were of age to care for themselves. Similar to what happened with Christian, that he lost his dad at 8 years old. So my children are now 13, and my oldest is about ready to turn 17. So I'm tracking along. So, and it's the truth. I think about it all the time. I gotta make it, I gotta make it, I gotta make it. Because I lost my father. My real father was a Korean War veteran, and he had post-traumatic stress disorder. And I lost him because he abandoned my mom with 8 kids when I was 8 months old. And then my mom remarried my stepfather, who was a Korean War veteran, and he had post-traumatic stress disorder. And he was a raging alcoholic, and he abandoned my mom when I was 12. So even though I didn't lose my father's the way these guys have, I know that's my God story and why God called me to start the foundation. And now what I do, especially when I talk to to Christian people, when I have the opportunity to talk in church, I say the same thing over and over. I don't always say this part, that it is our mandate to care for children, for widows and orphans, and I believe that the hope that we have as believers, you know, there are other nonprofits caring for Gold Star children. That's what they're called, Gold Star children. They are. But no one is doing it in a way to give them the hope of Jesus Christ in their lives. And that's what we're doing with the Soldier's Child Foundation. And at our camps specifically is where it happens. So it's a beautiful thing. So here's what happened. So after Henry had said that to me, I went home and I prayed with my wife, and a bunch of other things happened to lead me to start this thing. So we actually celebrated the very first A Soldier's Child birthday when Christian had turned 10 years old. And then we found a couple more kids in our state of Tennessee. So we had grown to 4 to 10, and before you knew it, we were at 40 kids. So I was teaching. So I started off as a Navy cook. I was a cook in the Navy. And then I went to the Culinary Institute of America, and I became a chef. I chefed in Hawaii for 5 years, in Manhattan, New York, and I actually was pretty good at it. But then I really felt like God was calling me to be with kids. So I abandoned my job as a head chef in Maui, Hawaii. I was making the most money I ever had in my life. And I told the owners, I gave them a 1-month notice, and they thought I lost my mind. And I became a substitute teacher at Maui High. And then from there, I got my teaching degree, and I was able to teach culinary arts for 20 years in the high school. So there I am. I'm now so this is 2008. We got about 100 kids in the foundation. And what I would do is use the kids in high school to help me do this rapping, to celebrate the children's birthdays. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I went before the Key Club in the school, and it was about 100 kids. So I told them if they came after school, we were going to have a big rapping party, and I would provide, the food. I would make some quesadillas and some lasagna and some cookies and whatnot. You come, wrap the gifts for the kids, and then we'll pack them up, ship them all over the country for the kids in time for the birthday. It's a rapping party. So the kids came, and we're in there, and we're wrapping the gifts, We're hard at work, and all of a sudden I hear this music coming down the hallway to my classroom. And it's and this kid comes up and comes to the door, and he says, "Yo, I'm here for the rapping party." I was like, oh my gosh. He's got this big old boombox on his shoulder. And I was like, oh, Bubba, it's not that type of rapping party. So this is a true story. We have a lot of funny stories like this. So he comes in. He's like, I was like, just do something, play some music, whatever you want to do. So he was a beatboxer, the guys that were like with their mouth and whatnot. And he stayed for about 20 minutes, and then finally he was like, "Yo, I'm out," and then he took off. But that's how this whole thing started with kids. It was kids caring for kids. I mean, every month I used the high school students at my school to do all the shopping and the rapping. And then when we started growing larger and larger, we got to about 600 kids or so when my board and I finally decided it was time in 2012 to resign from teaching and to do this full time. We now serve over 3,000 children all across the nation who've lost a military parent. And for us, it does not matter how they lost the parents. So it is killed in combat, killed in training, heart attack, leukemia, suicide, any type of military death or post-related military death that was a service-related illness or injury. So it's been amazing. And the camp portion of it has been where we can actually, so what we do is we send them these big old boxes. We spend about $150 or so on the kids, and it's everything they ask for on their wish list. and then we ship it to them for their birthday. So they're getting that year after year after year up to age 18. But then when we pull them into our camps, that's the opportunity where we really get to minister to them and really offer them some hope. But we do that in hunting, we do that in songwriting. We have a culinary arts camp, cake decorating, palette art, and photography camp happening next weekend, this coming weekend. So all these different disciplines to attract them to come, and then we mentor them. And the last thing we do is we facilitate in college scholarships, getting them to college debt-free. So how does it all happen to where we're in your community? So for the very first time, your community, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, will be a charter for a Soldier's Child Foundation. We don't have any charters. We do everything out of Middle Tennessee. And we have thought about starting charters, but it's just the risk in having a charter is huge. Because once we do that, we're giving some control over to somebody else that is not with us. You know, so it's been a risky thought for us of how we do that and still do it in a very respectful manner to make sure, because that's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with folks' grief, you know. We're dealing with some major hardship, and we can't just pass that over to anybody. Does that make sense? So, but we're going to do it with you all. We're going to do it with your community, with Owens and Minor, where Larry works, and we've been here 3 times, and what we have done, and this is why we're doing it, we've built relationship with your community. We've built trust with your community, and I believe God is leading us, a soldier's child, to pass the torch over to you guys within your state. That's what I believe. So thank you. Yes, you can applaud for that. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I promise you that. And it's you know, I don't always see what everybody else does, but I do see this, and I believe in it. I thank you all. I know some of you have given. I know some of time, talent, and treasure. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me, Pastor, for the opportunity to speak before you. I really look forward to what we will do together for these children in your state. And here's the deal. When we have the camp next year, we're going to obviously invite children from Pennsylvania, but we're going to invite the surrounding states too. So kids will be flying in, driving in. Their mamas will bring them here. And I'll tell you, every camp opportunity, the moms want the kids to be engaged in the Soldier's Child Foundation camps. So we got our work to do, but it's going to be a blessing. I'm grateful that we get to do it together. Thank you for the time to allow me to share my heart, my story with you all today. God bless you. Thank you.
Hey, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate you. You see why I'm excited about this. Now, the camp that we're gonna be a part of with Daryl is the first one out of the state of Tennessee, correct? It'll be the first one out. So it's we're like charting the waters. We're on the boat. 2 Navy guys sitting there side by side. We're on the boat. Okay, one's a cook, one's the ship. Okay, all right. So we are partnering with them, and I think it's a very good ministry to partner with. And I'm excited about that. So what we'd like to do is, if God has laid upon your heart to give something this morning, that's good. If not, that's fine too. Because, you know, I tell you all the time, when we do ministry here, a lot of times the shoe boxes and the backpacks, a lot of times this is all the ministry we see. Because the ministry is bigger than we are. Because the kingdom is bigger than we are. Amen? Amen. The kingdom is a lot bigger than we are. And we're gonna see more of this. So if you would like to give something this morning, that's fine. Like to give something down in the future, that's fine too. But everything that you give will go to Soldier's Child Foundation this morning. So guys, gals, ushers, whoever. One more. Marvin, yeah, there you go.